The statement read, $3.17. That was the final balance in my son's college fund. I still had gauze on my neck and surgical plastic stuck to my back. All I wanted in that moment was to order the pizza I'd promised Ethan before my surgery. A deal between father and son. An A in algebra, bash shines, extra pepperoni, and a movie on Sunday. But the app froze on the investment screen. College account, Ethan Doyle. Last transaction, $148,000 to Inspira Wellness Holdings, LLC. I took a deep breath. It wasn't shock. It was confirmation. My name is Richard Doyle. I'm 44 years old. I'm a civil engineer. I served 4 years in the Army Corps of Engineers before moving into the private sector. I've built hospitals, in war zones, schools in forgotten cities, even a tornado shelter in Kansas. I'm a man of structure, of planning, of solid foundations. I just didn't see that the floor of my own home had been cracking for a long time. Serena stopped asking how my day was. Started going out to check on aromatherapy inventory. Began going to bed earlier and smiling less. But it wasn't exhaustion. It was calculation. She stopped signing Ethan's school agenda, said, "It's better he learns to handle things on his own." I thought it was stress. She also started listening to instrumental music in the car. Serena always hated jazz. The signs were there. But like any engineer who trusts too much in concrete, I ignored the fractures. The back pain slowed me down, made me more dependent. Serena took advantage with the precision of a blind scalpel. I came home without warning. Refused the wheelchair at the hospital. Chose to limp in silence. At the entrance, I heard laughter coming from the kitchen. "I told you that cleaning robot would be perfect for the spa. It's going to feel like Dubai." It was her voice, Serena, my wife, for 17 years. "You're a genius, babe, and we've still got over $100,000 left." A man's voice, young, cheerful, the kind who spends more time picking a selfie caption than reading a contract. I stood in the hallway, on the table, wine glasses, lighting catalogs, and a tablet with photos of luxury interiors. A logo flashed. In the corner, Inspira Spa, Premium Sensory Experience. The same company that had drained my son's future. "You think Rick will notice?" "Rick doesn't even read his own statements. He's always lying down whining about his back." Laughter. "Good thing he finally got the surgery. Now we have the whole house to ourselves for days. And his safe is empty." I checked. More laughter. That's when I understood. They already saw me as furniture. I walked to the bedroom slowly, every step feeling like rusty nails underfoot. Closed the door and sat down. Let my phone drop onto my lap. Opened my old laptop, typed the company name, Inspira Wellness Holdings, LLC, founded in March, registered to our home address. Partners, Serena Doyle and Bradley Owen Simons. Bradley, the friend who showed up out of nowhere, who helped with posture rehab, who used my garage to rehearse business pitches. Now it all made sense. Her new perfume, the silence at dinner, the sensory research trips. She didn't steal. She built. She used every inch of my absence, my pain, my trust, and turned it into a lever to build a business with another man. On what was mine, and what was supposed to be. My son's, but she made one mistake. She forgot who she married. I'm not the kind of man who breaks a wall to find a crack. I'm the kind of man who reinforces the foundation while others are sleeping. It all started 3 months before the surgery. Serena began saying she needed to reconnect with herself. She started reading self-help books, lit candles in every room, and began frequenting an urban spa called Refugio do Ser, Sanctuary of the Self. I actually encouraged it. I thought it was just a phase. A month later, she showed me a business plan. A wellness space focused on aromatherapy and sensory reprogramming. She said she was being guided by an experienced industry consultant. I asked if he was trustworthy. "He's an integrative therapist, Rick. He got his MBA in London. His name, Bradley Owen Simons. Tall, tanned, always smiling. The kind of guy who never seems sweaty, even after leaving the gym. He started showing up often, always with a plausible excuse. Sample deliveries, alignment meetings, or energy check-ins. He shook my hand like I was a client. Never looked me in the eye. He was the one who suggested opening the company in both their names. And he was the one who advised Serena to legally shield the business by opening a holding company instead of a simple LLC, the kind of structure that hides beneficiaries and confuses anyone trying to trace the source of capital. All of this happened while I was preparing for surgery, finishing a rural school project in Texas and helping Ethan with algebra. The financial transactions started small. At first, $500 here, or $200 there, purchase of natural essences, or training in Thai therapy. Then Serena told me she'd found an anonymous investor willing to boost the business if she also contributed a significant amount. The investor was her, using my money. She accessed Ethan's college fund with a permission I had signed years ago, allowing her to check the balance in case of emergencies. She converted the fund into a flexible investment, telling the bank it was for quick liquidity in case of the account holder's surgery. 30 days later, the account was drained. The expenses were under the new company's name, but the money came from everything I had built. She used my own signature, scanned from old contracts. To authorize the full withdrawal, she signed as legal co-responsible party of the fund. I never saw it, never authorized it. Ethan only found out when, by mistake, he received a notification on his phone. "You've reached your usage limit on the Jovem Invest financial app." He asked me, "Dad, why is my account gone?" I told him it was a banking error. That day I already knew the truth, but I lied. To protect him. At least until I could understand how deep the hole was. Bradley wasn't just the lover, he was the architect of the manipulation. He had experience setting up companies and a record of minor legal fraud. 3 cases dismissed for lack of evidence. He used the social security number of a deceased brother to open ghost accounts. He funneled money through layers. It entered as investment in a shell company, was transferred to Inspira Spa's account, and then withdrawn as consulting fees. Serena said the spa was her rebirth. But what was really born was a structure carefully disguised as organic growth. She began talking to me like I was a tenant, avoided conversations about Ethan, said everyone should manage their own emotions. Once I overheard her on the phone saying, "He's functional, not emotional. He's easy to control." The cruelest part? The clothes. Bradley started wearing my old t-shirts, the ones I used on trips with Serena. The night I discovered the scheme, he was wearing my University of Missouri engineering course shirt, and he was laughing while holding one of my Crystal E glasses, the ones I bought for my son's baptism years ago. The humiliation wasn't in the theft. It was in the performance. They built a stage using my life and left me in the audience, watching it all happen, anesthetized. But right there, facing everything they took from me, I didn't break. On the contrary, I started building my own stage, in silence. Because a man like me doesn't react with impulse. He reacts with structure, and structure requires a solid foundation, time, and calculation. The next morning, Serena left early. Said she had to deal with the water mirrors with the decorator. Bradley stayed in the house, slept deeply, sprawled on the couch like a temporary king. Meanwhile, I was thinking only about structure. I started with the basics, bought a new external hard drive and installed hidden indoor cameras. I chose strategic spots, light fixtures, the frame of the living room mirror, even the fake button on the central air conditioning unit. Every corner became a collection point. Then, I updated my old war laptop, the one I used in Iraq during the construction of a primary school on unstable ground. It wasn't fast, but it was reliable and invisible to any tracking in the house. That afternoon, I went to the shed where I store construction tools. I grabbed a micro recorder left over from a contract in Missouri. I sewed it into the inner lining of Serena's bag, black thread, like stitching a wound shut. She didn't notice. I started collecting audio files, spreadsheets, videos, screenshots, recordings of arguments between her and Bradley about invoices, fake documents, and even off-the-books cash payments. Each night, while pretending to take the painkillers, I'd listen to the audio through earbuds at the lowest volume. In one of the recordings, she said, "With his name still on the old charter, all we have to do is prove he agreed. The rest we outsource." That's when I realized their plan involved using me as a legal guarantor. My documents were being manipulated to validate future contracts, and if anything went wrong, the lawsuit would fall on me. That's when I called James Holloway, an old Army friend, now a corporate lawyer, discreet, calculated, and loyal. "You want to file a lawsuit or expose them?" he asked, blunt as always. "Both, but no rush." We had the IPs on the contracts traced. One of them had been digitally signed using my home Wi-Fi, at the exact time I was unconscious in the hospital. James sighed. That's enough to prove federal fraud. Meanwhile, I got closer to Lisa, our neighbor, retired, observant, and suspicious of Serena for a long time. She stopped wearing her wedding ring about 2 months ago. "You noticed that?" I did. "Right after I saw your son coming home from school, looking sad. A present mom doesn't ride around with another man." Lisa handed me photos. Serena and Bradley leaving a motel, 2 weeks before my surgery. James reviewed everything and said, "If you stay quiet, I can use this cleanly. No scandal. But it'll hurt." For the first time in days, I smiled. I don't need to make noise. I just need to build right. For 3 weeks, I acted like nothing happened. Greeted Bradley with a faint nod. Had dinner with Serena like a man accepting fate. She thought I had given up. But every gesture was a brick. Every silence, a layer of reinforced concrete. Until one Saturday night, she left for a nighttime sensory immersion. Bradley stayed at home, answering emails. That's when I installed the remote mirroring software on her tablet. There I saw the contracts, the transfers, the real structure behind Inspira Spa. 3 interconnected companies, 2 offshore accounts, a phantom accountant. She was preparing to flee the country. And the most ironic part? The passport used to get her visa was paid for with the same card I set up when I still believed she wanted to start a handmade soap business. At 2:47 a.m. that night, I got the automated backup email from the spa's security system. It included a recent video. Serena and Bradley at the spa front desk, laughing while drafting a brand manifesto. She said, "Inspira's mission is to heal trauma." Ironic, huh? That's when it hit me. They weren't just stealing from me. They were mocking everything I had built. But what they didn't know was that while they slept in the bedroom that had been mine for 17 years, I was already recording everything. What hurt wasn't the theft. It was the contempt. Hearing my wife say I was functional but not emotional cut deeper than any scalpel. She didn't see me as a husband or a man. She saw me as access, a temporary step towards something better. One night, while she was out for another vibrational alignment session, I sat on the floor of my home office with an old box. Inside were backup flash drives I had long forgotten. I found one labeled Vid 2011 Ethan Baptism. I watched the whole thing. Serena was wearing a light blue dress, the same color she'd later used to decorate the spa. She smiled, holding Ethan in her arms, and looked at me like the future was simple. Back then, she still called me Rick. Not the guy at home. I paused at the moment she touched her forehead to mine, and I felt a dry, tight knot in my chest. It wasn't longing. It was disgust, because that Serena was gone, and the one left was just a facade. The next day, James called me. "I found something. The company's accountant doesn't exist." "What do you mean?" The firm listed to handle the spa's bookkeeping is registered to a man who's been dead since 2019. Overdose. And get this, his company has already been used in 2 other scams in different states. The accountant's name, Leonard Lenny Vasco. I did some research and found articles about him. Always the same pattern. Small businesses opened by couples, all promising wellness and sensory experiences. All of them disappeared within a year, leaving traces of bank fraud, tax evasion, and the use of shell owners. James was blunt. Bradley is just the visible link. Serena got involved in a criminal operation, and she knew. She wasn't the woman who just wanted to sell handmade soaps anymore. She was now an accomplice in a multi-state money laundering scheme. I picked up my phone and opened Ethan's WhatsApp. His last message was simple. "Dad, will you be able to come to my tournament? It's on the 18th. Will you be feeling better? I..." Didn't answer right away. I just leaned my forehead against the table. I remembered his voice saying he wanted to be an engineer, just like Dad. I remembered how he used to wait for me at the door with handmade signs when I came home from long work trips. And I remembered what Serena told my mom the Sunday before the surgery. Rick won't be able to handle this recovery. He doesn't know how to deal with pain. If he breaks, it'll be for good. She said that in front of me, as if I wasn't even there. And in a way, maybe she really thought I had already given up. But that's when I made my decision. I grabbed the original contract from Inspira Spa with the forged signature, got a notarized copy, requested a court order for IP and timestamp tracing with James's help. At the same time, I started tracking the origin of the first large transfer, $148,000 that disappeared from Ethan's account. The money didn't just go into Inspira Spa. It was split 3 ways. A business account in Serena's name, an offshore account under the name of a fake partner, an under-the-table payment to someone named Eduardo Fenner, a real estate agent in Florida. I looked up his name. Eduardo Fenner was already under investigation by immigration for suspected money laundering through luxury real estate. And who introduced Eduardo to Serena? Bradley. The chain was clear. The spa was a front. The real operation was turning my son's college fund into a down payment on a property in Miami, hidden behind fake owners and spread across vanishing accounts in the Caribbean. But what they didn't know was that while they were signing contracts using names of the dead, I was already talking to the living. I sent all the material to the state prosecutor's office. James reached out to a contact at the FBI, an agent named Daniel Patel, who specialized in corporate crimes involving interstate transactions. And before she came back from her retreat, something shifted inside me. The pain gave way to precision, because I realized I wasn't going to lose Ethan, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let him grow up thinking his father had fallen. Early that Sunday morning, I sat alone in the living room. I looked at every item she had picked out: the Indian pillow, the Himalayan salt lamp, the Egyptian incense holder, all carefully curated, but all rooted in lies, while she was sleeping with Bradley in the room I had built with my own hands. The trap was already set. The email came on a Wednesday morning at 6:42 a.m. "Mr. Doyle, we've accepted the case. The material is sufficient to open a federal investigation. Special Agent Daniel Patel, FBI." I read that line and closed my eyes for a few seconds. It wasn't relief. It was a turning point. The case was opened under the code Interstate Fraud 9C-187. It included not only Serena and Bradley, but also the realtor Eduardo Fenner and 2 shell companies tied to the name of a deceased accountant. In less than 72 hours, the FBI had authorized the financial records of Inspira Wellness Holdings LLC to be unsealed. And what they found was bigger than I expected. Ethan's fund had been recycled across 3 accounts in 4 different states. A pre-construction property in Fort Lauderdale was being purchased under the name of a Uruguayan company tied to Bradley and Serena. She had bought 2 one-way tickets to Miami, set to depart in 6 days, but she never made it on that flight. On Friday, 9:13 a.m., Inspira Spa was set to open for VIP guests only. Serena was wearing a beige blazer and giving orders like she was the CEO of a global brand. Bradley was rubbing alcohol on the diffusers, rehearsing the welcome speech. At 9:24 a.m., 4 black SUVs parked in front of the spa. 2 federal agents entered through the front. 3 came in through the back. One of them was Daniel Patel. His voice was firm, almost toneless. "Serena Doyle, Bradley Owen Simons, this spa is shut down under federal order. You are under investigation for bank fraud and identity theft." Serena tried to laugh. Then, she tried to cry. Bradley shouted, "It was her idea! She forged everything! I just signed!" Ethan was with me, in the car, 1 block away. He asked, "Dad, why are they taking them?" I simply answered, "Because the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to show up." James handled all the paperwork. In less than a week, the company was frozen by court order, the Florida property seized, and Serena's assets placed under legal custody. The video of the arrest hit social media. Lisa, our neighbor, was the one who posted it. "My spiritual neighbor getting taken by the FBI. Looks like karma rides in a black SUV." The caption went viral. Hundreds of comments. "Never underestimate a quiet man. A silent veteran is a dangerous veteran. Maximum respect. When the scam hits the son, the father becomes artillery." The case was covered by local news. The reporter from Channel 4 in St. Louis closed the broadcast with the line, "A civil engineer, a veteran, built more than structures. He built justice." The evidence was handed over on 2 flash drives, one with the audio files, the other with documents and videos of Serena and Bradley planning the scam. At the preliminary hearing, the prosecutor made a point of highlighting, "The most striking thing about this case is that Mr. Doyle didn't retaliate. He documented, analyzed, and trusted the law, and that's why this network is collapsing now." Serena tried to plead emotional instability. She said Bradley manipulated her, that she never meant to hurt her son. But audio doesn't lie. Neither do the videos. Bradley tried to dodge responsibility, but the screenshots, the transactions, and the forged contracts were all signed with location tracking turned on. The judge was blunt. "This court is not only judging financial fraud, it is judging family betrayal and the deliberate destruction of trust, and that will be punished." Ethan's college fund was fully restored by court order. The frozen funds from Serena's accounts covered every cent, with interest. But the real reward was seeing Bradley handcuffed, screaming innocence while the world saw the opposite, and Serena trying to hide her face with the same beige blazer she chose for her debut as a businesswoman. I didn't have to break anything, or scream, or threaten. All I had to do was show the truth, and let justice handle the rest. 3 months after the trial, I moved into a smaller house in a quieter neighborhood. Not out of shame, not to run away, but because that old house hadn't been mine for a long time. I built everything there with my own hands, from the foundation to the kitchen cabinets. Every wall held a memory. But some structures, when they're rotten at the base, just aren't worth renovating. Today, I live in a wooden townhouse with a wide porch. I bought a dog for Ethan. He named him Torque, after his physics classes. His college fund is intact again. With interest, it already covers the entire tuition. Serena was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2. Bradley got 3 years, but still faces other investigations. I never felt the need to see them in court. I had already seen enough. At the end of the case, James said to me, "You're the only client who won a war without raising his voice." I simply replied, "Because yelling is easy. What's hard is having patience." On the fridge in the new house, between Bill's and Ethan's drawings, there's an envelope held up by a magnet. I got it 2 weeks ago. No return address. Handwritten, "Mr. Doyle, I saw your story on TV. I was also scammed by a shell company. I thought I was stupid. I thought I deserved it. But seeing you act so calmly taught me that intelligence doesn't need shouting, just time. Today, I reported the scam I went through. My retirement fund might be recovered. And if it is, it's because of you. Thank you. Signed, Harold S., 67 years old, Arizona. On the last line, he wrote, "A quiet veteran is a dangerous one." I kept that letter like someone keeps a trophy, because revenge is noise, but justice is structure. And if one day someone asks me how I endured so much betrayal in silence, I'll say, with something stronger than anger, strategy.